So listen, it's a puzzle. We put together pieces of a puzzle every day. And, a lot of things that our guests say are then ascribed to us. We appreciate people listening and being out there and then saying they heard it on the show and then writing news stories about it. It's called getting aggregated in the 21st century. We appreciate that. And things that are said on this show, reports that are made on this show at the time are accurate, and then they change and they're like, well, wait a minute. But you said, or your guest said something else. We've reached that crossroads just 15 minutes ago in real time. But it started a couple of weeks ago. It was the first week, I believe, after there was no football. So there was no football after the Super Bowl, and then we're in the middle of that week knowing there's no more football coming that weekend, too. Like, it was in the middle of the first 2 weeks that we know that are going to be consecutively without football, and we're like, what are we going to talk about?
Darkness, my old friend.
Or other things. Not like, what are we going to... Well, yeah, sure. Sometimes what are we going to talk about? But listen, I'll see something on the old X machine, or I'll see a story that comes across thanks to the outstanding NFL Network assignment / research desks, and they'll put it out there. And I saw Jerry Dulac of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. He's been covering this team forever and a day.
Been reading him forever.
And he and his report was that essentially the Steelers are not interested in getting a big name quarterback outside of their organization, that they're going with Kenny Pickett, and if they re-sign Mason Rudolph, they liked what they saw in him for the last 3 weeks. That's how they're rolling in. And I said, bring me Jerry Dulac. And he zoomed in, and he gave us more meat on the bones while also talking about how he's binge watching Suits. Those are the things that happen on this program. Well, sure enough, smash cut to the present day when Russell Wilson's now free. Because the Broncos said, you're done, we're done, and we'll do you the favor. And I'm sure he's like, yeah, thanks for the favor. But we'll do the service of letting you talk to teams before free agency starts. Give you a little bit of a leg up on everybody else that has to maybe wait, technically, to hear from a prospective employer when the window in which you're allowed to talk to him opens up 2 days before the new league year begins. That's Monday. And so Jerry Dulac has now taken to his phone and typed in these words and hit send. Steelers are interested in signing Russell Wilson and are tentatively planning to meet with the former Broncos quarterback before start of free agency per sources. Wilson has interest in joining Steelers. Story in PG, meaning Post-Gazette, forthcoming. All right.
Ooh, baby.
Now then. As we mentioned the other day, in opening the program, the day after the announcement of the release came from the Broncos, and then Russ hit send on his own farewell announcement. I said there's two things you get with Russell Wilson. One is a guy with a huge chip on his shoulder that knows that the first 8 years of his 9 in Seattle that put him on the footing of a path to the Pro Football Hall of Fame needs to have a resurgence, needs to have something go his way where he's got weapons, he's got a coaching staff that's not going to turn over on him, right? He's got an offensive coordinator that knows how to do it for him. That's one thing. That he knows he's got to have all that. And then maybe after the self-stock taking over the last 3 seasons, last in Seattle and 2 in Denver, doing things a little differently to help himself, whatever those are. You get that guy. And you also get a guy who can come and be very inexpensive because the Denver Broncos are on the hook for his salary this year. And anything that he signs for with you just gets taken off of the Broncos tab. That one assumes, the risk there. Russell would like to make sure that the tab gets stuck as high as possible. Because the Broncos are cap hamstrung, and we'll have more on that later on. They released Justin Simmons, or they're planning to release one of the best in the business.
4-time All-Pro.
Who they love in Denver, and Denver loves as well. So they are cap hamstrung. And if he really wants to keep sticking it to Denver, he would basically say to the Roonies.
Rooney.
What's the league minimum? What's the league minimum?
$1.25 million.
Okay,
like
great. And then you pull like a complete contestants row trying to get up to win the car thing of $1 more. $1 more, Bob or Drew. That's it. You get that. So, but what does it mean? Because they're going to have a quarterback competition. That's going to happen. And I thought, as I said yesterday, I don't think Russ wants to join a spot where there is a competition. He wants the spot where, like, the job is yours or the competition is going to be kind of like the Baker Mayfield versus the Kyle Trask competition last year. Like, all right, thumb's going to be on the scale. We gave up enough capital to go get you in draft picks or a pick to go get you. And we've already seen what we had in Kyle Trask around the building, and we'll give you the leg up. You'll be the starter week 1 preseason, and you go from there. But the thumb's going to be kind of on the scale, Baker. I thought we'd see that. I don't think you're going to get that in Pittsburgh. I think that they will be they like Kenny Pickett. And if they do start Kenny Pickett, Russ is going to be holding the clipboard. Or even worse, cut. Because it's not going to cost them anything to cut him. And they like Kenny Pickett. I'm just going to keep warning everybody, but enough to give him very little competition? Nuh-uh. Russ is going to come? Interesting. Or they're interested in being interested in Russ coming? Interesting. Has Russ potentially looked over the steering wheel? And Minnesota is like, yeah, we need to see what's happening with Kirk first. Atlanta? Yeah, we need to see what's happening with Kirk first. Vegas? Yeah, I think we're thinking about a rookie, but Denver obviously is out. Who else? Patriots? You got to look there and say, okay, you've got the staff, not going to be turning over. They just turned it to them. But you're looking at the roster. You don't see George Pickens there. He's not walking through that door, to use the Boston phrase, right?
Nope. Not a good roster.
So who else? We've check-marked. Nobody else. Those are the ones we've check-marked to be interested in a quarterback. Tampa's got a question mark. Jason Licht, the general manager, is slated to join our program tomorrow. They're having a press conference to reintroduce Mike Evans as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer.
You know him, you love him. Put your hands together.
So I think they're, like I said, I think they're going to stick with Baker. He probably looked over the steering wheel and goes, Steelers, quarterback competition, Kenny Pickett. Mike Tomlin's not going anywhere, despite the Steeler fans wanting potentially some out. Arthur Smith's there. Good running game. TJ Watt, defensive player of the year material.
Cam Hayward, man of the year.
Oh, yeah. Walter Payton, man of the year. Yeah. You got to have a couple guys with a patch on the team? Okay.
Rich, do you think this is a situation, or shouldn't the Steelers look at this like Kenny Pickett came in 22, got thrown right into the fire, didn't really have a vet to learn from and back up? I would look at this as a learning experience. Have Russ come in, maybe sit Kenny for a year, maybe have him work on some things. And then if he's really your guy, put him back out there.
Sit him? No.
No? No. Well, I don't think
no, because you need to know what he is. You've got, after this year, entering year 4, you've got to make a decision about picking up year 5. And last year was kind of a lost year for him. You know, I mean, sitting him is a just for Russ. No, if they bring in Russ, there's going to be a competition between Kenny and Russell Wilson, and they might even add a third. But Russ is going to come dirt cheap for somebody with his resume and his chip on his shoulder and his abilities. And I'll tell you what, man. When you're going against Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow, and your fan base is kind of like, I'm sure the Roonies, when they're walking around or having their dinner parties or whatever, I'm sure they're hearing, like, really? What's going on over there? So this is interesting because 3 weeks ago, they were supposedly not interested in this sort of thing, and now Russ is free, and that's the one they're interested in. I bet it's because he doesn't cost them a single draft choice and not very much on the cap. There's very little risk. The only risk is you're going to have Kenny Pickett looking over his shoulder. But if Russ cooks, like the Seattle Russ, if he still exists, now you're talking. And the fact that they're actually kicking the tires on that, I think many Steelers fans will kind of dig. Thank you, Jerry Dulac. I think he's earned himself another return to the Rich Eisen Show. Right?
Yeah, we got to find out.
We'll find out what season he is on Suits.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
What's going on in Suits, Jerry? Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.